Hello YouTube. Today we're going to be discussing the difference between the 5.56 by 45 and the 7.62 by 39 rounds as they pertain to full metal jacket bullets only. These rounds were first adopted by the Soviet and the US military respectively after World War II. Now, going back a little further than that, the reason we're discussing full metal jacket rounds is because the Hague Convention, which was held in 1899, states that no hollow points are allowed in international conflicts. They said no expanding bullets and no flattening bullets on impact were allowed. So all conventional warfare by NATO countries since 1899 and by all the pretty much the civilized country that follow rules of war have been going with full metal jackets since then. Now the Soviets, they had a round called the 7.62 by 54. It's what is used in the Mosin Nagant bolt-action rifle. It's very close to the 30-06 round that was used by the Americans in World War II. Whenever they went to the AK-47, this round had way too much kick to it to be in a fully automatic shoulder-fired rifle. So they chose to go with a smaller version of the same round. So it's the same 7.62, but instead of a 54 millimeter case, they put a 39 millimeter case on the back of it. So it reduced the kick of the round and made it on full auto controllable for their rifles. Now, the United States, on the other hand, they did a little bit more testing. They took all of their rifles and all of their different bullets and they shot up pins full of pigs. They then did autopsies and examined the pigs and examined the wound damage. So they shot them with 30 calibers, 22 calibers, everything in between, everything bigger and smaller, everything they had a cartridge they tested. Well, they found out that this strange little cartridge called the 5.56 by 45 did a great deal of damage for its size. And they couldn't figure out why at first until they did the autopsies and saw the wound tracks. What happens is when this round at high speeds over 2,500 feet per second, collides with the human body, or a pig in this case, the bullets, because of their shape, have a tendency to yaw. And what yaw means they want to go the back over the front. So they start to spin when they hit flesh. This does not always happen, but it does happen fairly regularly, enough that the wound tracks on average were doing more damage than the larger 308 and 30-06 rounds they were firing. So the bullet spins. It has a cantilever on it which acts as a place where it can start to break apart, and then it breaks into fragments, thus giving the effect of a hollow point round, and it transfers more of its energy into the target instead of like the counterpart the Russians are using, which typically would pass clean through a target and then continue on at high velocity afterwards. So the key is that you may have a high-powered bullet, but if it doesn't transfer the energy, it's not as effective as a smaller, slower, or faster-moving bullet that might transfer the energy into the target. Hence why hollow points typically are considered better than non-hollow point bullets in pistol rounds and rifle rounds. Alright, so the next thing we want to look at is the size of the actual bullets. I put these on the scale and figured out how much they each weighed. And for 1 pound of bullets, you get 39 5.56 rounds. For 1 pound of 7.62, you get 28 bullets. So for the same weight, you're carrying 39 of the 5.56 and you're carrying 28 of the 7.62 by 39. So the benefit to that is if you're running around with ground troops that are having to carry their own water, food, and bullets and rifles, they can carry a lot more of these smaller ones that do that great wound track damage. And when they get into a firefight, they're able to fire more bullets because they're carrying more bullets than their adversaries typically. Now later, around the 1980s, the Russians actually switched from the AK-47 to the AK-74, which fires a very similar round to the 5.56 by 45 NATO round. So even the Russians later decided that shooting more bullets out of a machine gun and carrying more bullets with a machine gun was better than shooting a larger powered round out of the machine gun. And with the ability for it to do more damage on average by tumbling or yawing in its target, that was a great advantage too. You're getting a lot of size to damage to weight ratio out of this smaller round compared to the larger rounds that they might carry that might just penetrate and go clean through the target. So weight, the 5.56 wins. Damage, the 5.56 wins by a little, not by a lot. I mean, a 30 caliber hole is still a 30 caliber hole and does a lot of damage, but the 5.56 does a little bit better on average than the 30 caliber. And then for penetration, penetration is taken by the 7.62 cartridge in Full Metal Jacket. It'll go through automobile doors and brick walls and other objects better than the smaller round. And then for full control on automatic fire, that goes to the smaller round. It is easier to control a round that has less recoil, and the 5.56 NATO has less recoil than the 7.62 Soviet. So, all in all, when we're comparing the military uses of these Full Metal Jacket rounds, the 5.56 is pretty much going to win out against the 7.62, but they are not that far apart. That is why in every major conflict, these two rounds have fought each other and done damage to both sides. Neither one is that much greater that it's a game changer to either side. They're both very effective rounds in small arms, shoulder-fired, fully automatic weapons. Now, in my next video, I'm going to discuss both of these rounds, but I'm going to discuss the civilian applications, and I'm going to discuss the hollow point versions, the non-Full Metal Jacket versions, and the difference between hollow points and Full Metal Jacket, and the civilian applications, and which one may be better for your philosophy of use and the way you use your weapons.